Hey, I'm glad to welcome you back. This is day number 288, and God is with us, especially whenever we read His Word. Today we read Ezekiel 8 and 9, Song of Solomon chapter 5, and our second reading in Matthew 25. Let's turn to Ezekiel 8. Terrible destruction is prophesied against Judah and Jerusalem. The trumpet will sound the battle call, but no one will get ready because they are under God's wrath. Ezekiel 8. On the 5th day of the 6th month of the 6th year of our exile, the leaders of the exiles from Judah were sitting in my house with me. Suddenly the power of the sovereign Lord came on me. I looked up and saw a vision of a fiery human form. From the waist down his body looked like fire, and from the waist up he was shining like polished bronze. He reached out what seemed to be a hand and grabbed me by the hair. Then in this vision, God's Spirit lifted me high in the air and took me to Jerusalem. He took me to the inner entrance of the north gate of the temple, where there was an idol that was an outrage to God. There I saw the dazzling light that shows the presence of Israel's God, just as I had seen it when I was by the Kebar River. God said to me, "Mortal man, look toward the north." I looked, and there near the altar by the entrance of the gateway I saw the idol that was an outrage to God. God said to me, "Mortal man, do you see what is happening? Look at the disgusting things the people of Israel are doing here, driving me farther and farther away from my holy place. You will see even more disgraceful things than this." He took me to the entrance of the outer courtyard and showed me a hole in the wall. He said, "Mortal man, break through the wall here." I broke through it and found a door. He told me, "Go in and look at the evil, disgusting things they are doing there." So I went in and looked. The walls were covered with drawings of snakes and other unclean animals, and of the other things which the Israelites were worshipping. 70 Israelite leaders were there, including Jaazaniah, son of Shaphan. Each one was holding an incense burner, and smoke was rising from the incense. God asked me, "Mortal man, do you see what the Israelite leaders are doing in secret? They all are worshiping in a room full of images. Their excuse is, the Lord doesn't see us. He has abandoned the country." Then the Lord said to me, "You are going to see them do even more disgusting things than that." So he took me to the north gate of the temple and showed me women weeping over the death of the god Tammuz. Footnote: Tammuz is the name of a god who was thought to die when vegetation died and to come to life the next year. Women would mourn his ritual death. God asked, "Mortal man, do you see that? You will see even more disgusting things." So he took me to the inner courtyard of the temple. There, near the entrance of the sanctuary, between the altar and the porch, were about 25 men. They had turned their backs to the sanctuary and were bowing low toward the east, worshiping the rising sun. The Lord said, "Mortal man, do you see that? These people of Judah are not satisfied with merely doing all the disgusting things you have seen here and with spreading violence throughout the country. No, they must come and do them right here in the temple and make me even more angry. Look how they insult me in the most offensive way possible. They will feel all the force of my anger. I will not spare them or show them any mercy. They will shout prayers to me as loud as they can, but I will not listen to them. Ezekiel 9. Then I heard God shout, "Come here, you men who are going to punish the city. Bring your weapons with you." At once 6 men came from the outer north gate of the temple, each one carrying a weapon. With them was a man dressed in linen clothes, carrying something to write with. They all came and stood by the bronze altar. Then the dazzling light of the presence of the God of Israel rose up from the winged creatures where it had been and moved to the entrance of the temple. The Lord called to the man dressed in linen, "Go through the whole city of Jerusalem and put a mark on the forehead of everyone who is distressed and troubled because of all the disgusting things being done in the city." And I heard God say to the other men, "Follow him through the city and kill. Spare no one, have mercy on no one. Kill the old men, young women, mothers, and children, but don't touch anyone who has the mark on his forehead. Start here at my temple." So they began with the leaders who were standing there at the temple. God said to them, "Defile the temple, fill its courtyards with corpses, get to work." So they began to kill the people in the city. While the killing was going on, I was there alone. I threw myself face downward on the ground and shouted, "Sovereign Lord, are you so angry with Jerusalem that you're going to kill everyone left in Israel?" God answered, "The people of Israel and Judah are guilty of terrible sins. They have committed murder all over the land and have filled Jerusalem with crime. They say that I, the Lord, have abandoned their country and that I don't see them. But I will not have pity on them. I will do to them what they have done to others." Then the man wearing linen clothes returned and reported to the Lord, "I have carried out your orders." Let's turn now to Song of Solomon, chapter 5. Yesterday the young man extolled the perfection of his bride. Song of Songs, chapter 5. The man speaks, "I have entered my garden, my sweetheart, my bride. I am gathering my spices and myrrh. I'm eating my honey and honeycomb. I'm drinking my wine and milk."
Eat, lovers, and drink until you are drunk with love. While I slept, my heart was awake. I dreamed my lover knocked at the door.
Let me come in, my darling, my sweetheart, my dove. My head is wet with dew, and my hair is damp from the mist.
I have already undressed. Why should I get dressed again? I have washed my feet. Why should I get them dirty again? My lover put his hand to the door, and I was thrilled that he was near. I was ready to let him come in. My hands were covered with myrrh, my fingers with liquid myrrh. As I grasped the handle of the door, I opened the door for my lover, but he was gone. How I wanted to hear his voice. I looked for him, but couldn't find him. I called to him, but heard no answer. The sentries patrolling the city found me. They struck me and bruised me. The guards at the city wall tore off my cape. Promise me, women of Jerusalem, that if you find my lover, you will tell him that I am weak from passion.
The women of Jerusalem speak.
Most beautiful of women, is your lover different from everyone else? What is there so wonderful about him that we should give you our promise?"
The young woman responds,
"My lover is handsome and strong. He is 1 in 10,000. His face is bronzed and smooth. His hair is wavy, black as a raven. His eyes are as beautiful as doves by a flowing brook, doves washed in milk and standing by the stream. His cheeks are as lovely as a garden that is full of herbs and spices. His lips are like lilies, wet with liquid myrrh. His hands are well formed, and he wears rings set with gems. His body is like smooth ivory, with sapphires set in it. His thighs are columns of alabaster set in sockets of gold. He is majestic, like the Lebanon mountains with their towering cedars. His mouth is sweet to kiss. Everything about him enchants me. This is what my lover is like, women of Jerusalem."
Now let's return to Matthew 25. Yesterday in this chapter, we heard 2 parables that speak about being ready for Christ's return. Something that is repeated in the parables on this topic is that outside there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Jesus is, by that, teaching an important idea, that the punishment in hell will be conscious punishment, shown by the weeping, and it will be painful, as shown by the gnashing of teeth. Matthew 25, starting at verse 14. Jesus is speaking. "At that time the kingdom of heaven will be like this. Once there was a man who was about to leave home on a trip. He called his servants and put them in charge of his property. He gave to each one according to his ability. To one he gave 5,000 gold coins. To another he gave 2,000, and to another he gave 1,000. Then he left on his trip. The servant who had received 5,000 coins went at once and invested his money and earned another 5,000. In the same way, the servant who had received 2,000 coins earned another 2,000. But the servant who had received 1,000 coins went off, dug a hole in the ground, and hid his master's money. After a long time, the master of those servants came back and settled accounts with them. The servant who had received the 5,000 coins came in and handed over the other 5,000. He said, 'You gave me 5,000 coins, sir. Look, here is another 5,000 that I have earned.' 'Well done, you good and faithful servant,' said his master. 'You have been faithful in managing small amounts, so I will put you in charge of large amounts. Come on in and share my happiness.' Then the servant who had been given 2,000 coins came in and said, 'You gave me 2,000 coins, sir. Look, here are another 2,000 that I have earned.' 'Well done, you good and faithful servant,' said his master. 'You have been faithful in managing small amounts, so I will put you in charge of large amounts. Come on in and share my happiness.' Then the servant who had received 1,000 coins came in and said, 'Sir, I know you are a hard man. You reap harvests where you did not plant, and you gather crops where you did not scatter seed. I was afraid, so I went off and hid your money in the ground. Look, here is what belongs to you.' 'You bad and lazy servant,' his master said. 'You knew, did you, that I reap harvests where I did not plant, and gather crops where I did not scatter seed? Well then, you should have deposited my money in the bank, and I would have received it back with interest when I returned. Now take the money away from him and give it to the one who has 10,000 coins. For to every person who has something, even more will be given, and he will have more than enough. But the person who has nothing, even the little that he has, will be taken away from him. As for this useless servant, throw him outside in the darkness, where he will cry and gnash his teeth. When I, the Son of Man, come as King, and all the angels with me, I will sit on my royal throne, and the people of all the nations will be gathered before me. Then I will divide them into two groups, just as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. I will put the righteous people on my right and the others at my left. Then I, as King, will say to the people on my right, Come, you that are blessed by my Father, come and possess the kingdom which has been prepared for you ever since the creation of the world. I was hungry, and you fed me, thirsty, and you gave me a drink. I was a stranger, and you received me in your homes, naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you took care of me, in prison, and you visited me. The righteous will then answer me, When, Lord, did we ever see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you a drink? When did we ever see you a stranger and welcome you in our homes, or naked and clothe you? When did we ever see you sick or in prison and visit you? I, the King, will reply, I tell you, whenever you did this for one of the least important of these followers of mine, you did it for me. Then I will say to those on my left, Away from me, you who are under God's curse, away to the eternal fire which has been prepared for the devil and his angels. I was hungry, but you would not feed me, thirsty, but you would not give me a drink. I was a stranger, but you would not welcome me in your homes, naked, but you would not clothe me. I was sick and in prison, but you would not take care of me. Then they will answer me, When, Lord, did we ever see you hungry or thirsty or a stranger or naked or sick or in prison, and we would not help you? Sitting on my throne, I will reply, I tell you, whenever you refuse to help one of these least important ones, you refuse to help me. These then will be sent off to eternal punishment, but the righteous will go to eternal life. Please join me in prayer. Lord Jesus, putting these two parables together, we see that we are those servants to whom you have given bags of gold. But the investments you want us to make with your riches entrusted to us are these: to feed the hungry for your glory, to give a drink of cool water for your sake, to welcome strangers into our homes for the sake of your kingdom, to clothe needy people so that they can meet you, to take care of sick people as though we were caring for you, and to treat even prisoners as if it were you suffering in prison. Lord, help us. We want to be on your right-hand side on that final judgment day and enter into a kingdom that had our names written on it ever since the creation of the world. Oh, let us not miss it. Stamp love into our hearts, so that love will move us to do all those things you mentioned, in order that the thirsty, hungry, needy, sick, and prisoners will not enter eternal punishment.